Fall Equinox. I want you to know that part of what's been happening in the background of the Festival of Hope is that I'm looking constantly for people who have some kind of affinity for whichever one of the rituals, traditions, or holidays we're talking about. And so I was thinking to myself about Fall Equinox, and for some reason, Sarah came to mind, and I thought, I wonder if Sarah has any meaning, any real special meaning with Fall Equinox. I'm not sure what makes me think so, but I wonder. So Sarah, I'm going to just leave the story right there so you can tell people what then next happened.
So I get a text from Michele asking me that very odd question. Does Fall Equinox have any personal significance to you? And I answer, well, I was born that day, which of course then followed with a phone call where she explained this whole project and what she was interested in doing. And I thought it was a really cool that it's something that's so personally important in my life that I could do a little something to share with other people on this day too. Yeah.
It was so awesome, but it was hilarious because I follow my question with, or my thought with the text just to say, so Fall Equinox, is that something important to you at all? So thankfully it was. And now, like I said, Sarah has shared this in video, but I just want to give her a couple of minutes to talk a little bit more about Fall Equinox and why it's had an important part, been an important part of your life, even separate from and including perhaps that it happens to be your birthday. And this year did fall on your birthday, right? Is that right?
Mm-hmm. It did.
Yeah.
Yes.
Happy birthday.
Yeah. Happy
Thank
birthday.
you. Thank you. It's been a good one. Yeah, so it doesn't always fall on the 22nd, but more often than not it does, but it also can be on the 23rd, 21st, it varies. So a little bit that we touched on in the video earlier in the week that I shared was the whole meaning of Fall Equinox, and that translates in Latin to equal night. So in the fall and the spring, we have these 2 days of the year where we have an equal amount of day as we do tonight. So that is sort of the calendar significance of it. And there are a lot of spiritual and religious significances as well, especially like in pagan culture. There's a large festival that is always held on the equinox. And so it's a big harvest festival, and there's the whole idea of like bringing in the harvest around this time and having this grand celebration of everything that you have planted and grown through the year that has come to fruition. And at the same time, you're getting shorter in daylight from here through the end of the year. Our daylight hours get shorter and our nighttime gets longer. So it's also an acknowledging of this idea of turning, there's a phrase like turning away from the sun. And so that idea of the longer days, literally and symbolically also. So you kind of have this balance between appreciating that bounty and the harvest of the year, as well as an honoring of literal darkness in our lives, as well as symbolically and figuratively the idea of challenges, losses, you know, some of the more difficult things. So it's a really beautiful day that's really symbolizes that balance of like the bitter and the sweet and the light and the dark kind of put together.
I love that you mentioned the celebration of the abundance too, because that's one of the parts of Fall Equinox I think that I find really meaningful, is that we take a moment to appreciate abundance. And at a time when we're struggling with so many huge challenges globally, in our, here in the United States for sure, like there's just so much going on that it feels like taking a minute to say, okay, where are my abundances, is a way to kind of help to balance the scale, which is really what Fall Equinox starts to encourage us to do. I also know that you have a couple other personal reasons why Fall Equinox has played an important part of your life. And while this effort, the Festival of Hope, is not focused on the grief of widowed people, which is usually what we program for, and of course will be included in everything we do, but we wanted to make this a really broad kind of concept. Having said that, you have a really special connection with Fall Equinox, and if you'd be willing to share that with us, I think there'd be other people who would benefit from hearing that.
I do. So as we mentioned, it typically falls on my birthday. So this day, not only is that significant to my own annual beginnings and endings, but it obviously ties back to my mom. And my mom passed away when I was 9, so I was very young. But she loved fall. And every fall season, that first, my brother will always say that every time the first cold snap hits the air, he just thinks of her. And he just gets that feeling of like she was so excited when the first cold front would hit for the year and fall would come in. And so I have all these beautiful memories of this feeling of like the joy of the colors and the traditions of fall that she always loved. And one of the things that I do now at the beginning of fall that connects both to her and to her mother, my grandmother, is to make my grandmother's chicken and dumplings. And I wait all year long. So I make it through the winter, and then in January, stop making it. And everybody has to wait until fall, and then we make it again. So it's coming. I've got the chicken in the freezer. It's not happening yet, but it's happening this weekend. And so that's another big one for me, that not only is it something that connects to my mother, but it connects to my grandmother and to all these like beautiful, loving memories and traditions that bring me so much joy at this time of year. So yeah.
What I love too is that idea that, you know, the traditions that we welcome and any of them that work for Festival of Hope, any of the things that matter to you, they become a part of your family history. And then they become a part of what you love. And that this time is something that reminds you of mom in a way that, you know, makes you smile and makes you feel loved, is such a beautiful part of the Fall Equinox and a part of any tradition in which we include other people and, you know, where we share our joy. So I really love that you're willing to share that joy with us. And I'm excited to tell everyone that Sarah has agreed to share her chicken and dumplings, her grandma's chicken and dumpling recipe with us. It's written in her mother's handwriting, and you all are going to get the opportunity to add that potentially to your Fall Equinox celebration by celebrating with Sarah, her family tradition. I'm super excited. I can't wait. I'm definitely going to make it.
Yay.
We're going to have to be posting pictures of making the recipes. If anybody takes it upon themselves to make the recipe, we'll be posting so that Sarah will see that we're taking advantage of the opportunity to do that. All right. So one of the things that we've decided to do is create a balance jar. And while many of you have probably heard of gratitude jars, you may have heard of kindness jars. Sarah and I kind of blended all of the concepts. So I'll leave it to Sarah to tell you about what we came up with.
So since this day is all about the idea of balance, we thought it was more appropriate to do, instead of a blessings jar, to do a balance jar that has sort of a culmination of not just the blessings from our year, but also the challenges, because I think it's important not just to honor the hard things in the year, but to honor ourselves and the fact that we have made it through those hard things. And I think that's especially important in a year like this, to take some time to honor both of those. So I grabbed just a little canning jar that we had downstairs, and I actually decorated it. So I put a couple little fall leaves that I glued on there and tied some ribbon on it. And then I thought, well, you know, you could do Like if you wanted to get creative with it, you could do like little craft paints or something with it also. So there's like lots of different ways that you can make it something really special too. So the idea was you would have some kind of container or just a bowl, you know, something that you just have there because it doesn't have to be anything fancy. And then I have just a couple pieces of scraps of construction paper that I grabbed. Post-it notes also work good. So, you know, printer paper, whatever you have. We thought it was fun to do two colors so that you would have a color for the blessings and then a color for the challenges. And then when you put them together in your bowl, you will have that mixture of colors that really blends together and kind of encompasses what that full harvest of the year is about.
I love it so much. So to reiterate, it's super easy. This is my big fat jar. Prior to the about 15 minutes before we started, it had cards in it. So I dumped out the cards. So it can be any kind of jar. It's helpful if it's clear, because what you'll see is that when you put two different colors in, you're able to see the two colors. So I grabbed Post-its, which I'm dropping everywhere. I grabbed two Post-its, and the idea would be would write my blessing on this, fold it in fours, drop it in my little jar, and then I would write a challenge on this. And I would encourage you to try to make this a practice every day, because what we want for the Festival of Hope is to encourage rituals that are going to support our mental health, that are going to be able to speak to some of the challenges, but also provide us with tools for managing those challenges. So if you look in my little jar, I've got a yellow and I've got a green. And if I were to do this every day, my jar is going to be full not only of just blessings, as Sarah said, which of course are wonderful, but also an honoring of the challenges that we've overcome as well, the challenges we've faced, the things that we've had to manage. And every day will be a new day, right? So one single blessing for the day and one challenge, or if you happen to have three of each. But here's the rub. We want you to balance them. So if you're going to put in a challenge, then you want to put in a blessing. Your blessing could be the smallest thing. You saw a hummingbird out the window. I say that because Jenny's been seeing a lot of hummingbirds this week. But that could be the thing. Maybe that was the only thing today that you can think of that, lifted your spirit. And there were maybe 5 things that were hard. But the goal is one hard thing, one blessing, because we want to demonstrate by the time we get to the end of the Festival of Hope in January, we want to demonstrate like this is going to be full of both blessings and challenges, which means that we have faced the challenges and we've embraced the blessings. And that's why we decided to call it a balance jar. And if you happen to be artistic like Sarah, you may decide you want to decorate it. You can turn it into whatever you like, but I would love to see pictures of them. So we'll be asking you to share pictures of whatever you decided to do. It could be this simple, like straight up just a jar, or it could be anything that speaks to you about where it's a place you want to store your blessings and your challenges. So I hope that you guys will join us. If anybody happens to have already come to us with their jars and you're willing to share them, Jenny, how best can we see them so everyone can? Oh, beautiful. You know what, Amy, I'm going to ask you if you can unmute and then just maybe tell us a little bit about why you chose that jar and whether or not you decorated it already, or did you have that already as it was?
This jar, I've held on to it since my beloved golden retriever died 3 years ago. This is what I used to keep her treats in.
Aww.
And I've always just had it around, and I finally decided what a better place for a balance jar.
Oh, that's a perfect place for a balance jar.
And I happen to be one of those silly people that keeps a closet full of wrapping paper and ribbons and all of that. They often say, do what you love and you'll make money at it, but I love to wrap gifts and I'm never going to make money at that. So. But anyway, you can buy these little felt sticky things. So literally, I just stuck it on. I had a little piece, so I just wanted a little decorative thing. That's all.
I absolutely love it. And what a perfect way to use that jar.
Yeah,
That
she
is
was
exactly
a
it.
doll. And she's playing with my husband along the Milky Way somewhere. So
I love that they're together. Thank you so much for sharing. Does anyone else have a jar they'd like to share? Bear with me because I'm actually, you know what? I'm going to change my view. That'll make it much easier. All right. If you've got a jar you'd like to share, just put it. Oh, there we go. Laura, would you like to unmute and share your jar?
Yeah. So this is actually just an old ball jar with film on it, but so it's not especially pretty, but my husband was a painter. He passed away last year. That's a painting of his behind me. Okay. And this is what he kept his paintbrushes in, and it was beside his easel. And I've held on to it. I gave away a lot of his materials to an art place here that gives out supplies, but I held on to this and didn't know what to do with it, and now I know what to do with it. So.
Wow, I love it. It's perfect, and it should be dusty like that. That means it was well used.
Exactly.
Awesome. Anybody else? Jenny.
So I also have kind of like a precious thing with this guy. Let me just change this view real quick for the recording. Okay. So this is a mason jar from a San Diego Padres game. And every year up until this year, since my fiance Cole passed away, we hold we select a game every season when the Giants are in town. The Giants were his favorite team, and we host a memorial game for him where all of our friends gather, and we go to watch the Giants play the Padres, and this came from one of those games. So
awesome. Beautiful place for a balance jar. Anyone else have a jar they want to share? I want to just make sure I'm not missing anyone's hands. Okay, wonderful. Well, we are delighted to be able to start this project. And again, the goal will be to try to do the best we can to keep putting them in. And let's say you wake up on Monday and think, oh, I didn't write them yesterday. It's okay, you can do them the next day. We just want to try to keep those jars filling up with the blessings and the challenges that we experience as we make our way through the rest of the year. And Sarah, I wonder if you have any final thoughts you want to share about Fall Equinox in general or about your balance jar.
I'm so excited that this is something that we can carry through, because initially when Michele approached me, I thought, we'll be just doing kind of like a single one-off, like just this week sort of ritual. And then as we threw ideas around, I thought, oh, how wonderful that we could have something to last us all the way through the end of the year. And to me, I feel like that's going to be such a nice practice, especially as we get into winter, and winter can be hard. So I think that's just something I'm really looking forward to, and I'm really excited to see what everybody else comes up with as far as the jars that they choose, or the significance of the containers that they might have. So I think it's a wonderful idea to continue it through, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how that works out, just for me and then for everybody else as well.
Thank you so much for being willing to share your love of the Fall Equinox with us. I want to also just say to everyone, so if you're watching this video and not with us live today, I appreciate so much every one of you who shared your jars, because it will give people ideas. Oh, I know, I have that thing that I don't know what to do with, or it'll maybe change the way people will go looking for a jar that they want to use to collect this, balance of challenge and blessing. So if you're watching and you haven't yet selected your jar, you've heard a few ideas of ways that you can use a meaningful piece of glass or pottery to be able to hold these challenges and blessings. And so I also want to say thank you to Sarah for sharing her recipe with us. When she told me about the recipe, I was like, would you be willing to share it? Because I was so excited about the idea that you know, it's just a full circle, beautiful reminder of what ritual does for us. And also, truly, it's why we miss ritual. It's why going into the holidays and not having the regular things that we might have around us is hard, because ritual matters. And so knowing that, and knowing that we can create ritual even where we are, you know, so this ritual, Festival of Hope, is a ritual we're going to continue to encourage all through the rest of the year, because we have the opportunity to come together and do that and acknowledge the rituals that matter to us, even if we're not able to engage in them in exactly the same way that we normally would. So I anticipate, like, I know for sure that one of my challenges is going to be that I'm not going to be spending Thanksgiving in exactly the same way I would with my 35-person family. But the balanced blessing of that will be the opportunity, really, truly, to share with this community in a way that we've never done before. So I'm looking forward to continuing this tradition. We'll send out reminders now and again, just to remember to put your blessings and your challenges in your jar, but I'd encourage you to put the jar somewhere where you can see it. I don't know about you, but for me, it has to be somewhere where my eyes will hit it. Otherwise, I will completely forget. So if you put your papers and your jars in a place you can see it, the likelihood of being able to remember to do it increases, in my experience. So for all of you who've joined us today, thank you so much for being a part of this experience and the Festival of Hope in general. Next week, we will be entering Yom Kippur, the week of Yom Kippur. So we will be exploring the themes of renewal and release. As many of you may know, Yom Kippur is really focused on forgiveness and on asking for forgiveness. So we're going to really kind of come through the week of Yom Kippur looking at what can we release. And I love that one of the presenters who has been working with us to make sure that we're honoring each of the traditions in a respectful and accurate way, said that one of the things she's realized is that forgiveness of ourselves is one of the things that's hardest oftentimes. And so we'll be talking a lot about that in the week ahead. So thank you for being a part of it. I will look forward to seeing you all next week. And Sarah, what a joy. You're going to be my blessing for today. I'm going to put your name on my blessing sheet for today. And that'll get my jar started off perfectly. So I thank you so much for being a part of this. I'm going to take a look. We're going to go ahead and close up the video. And then I will take a look at the comments just to make sure we haven't missed any questions that you might want to ask.